Hi, Ken McCarthy here. So I'm going to take a moment to just provide some information on a question I get quite often, differences between types of infractions or investigations within the Canadian Federal Public Service. So I do a lot of work in investigations into wrongdoing, investigations into misconduct, investigations into harassment, violence, and security investigations. So just give you a quick overview of some of these things. So there's the Canada Labour Code Workplace Harassment and Violence Prevention Regulations. Some people refer to it as Bill C-65. And in that particular program, we're looking at whether harassment or violence occurred in a workplace. So an individual who feels that it did happen to them, as an example, can file a notice of occurrence. And they say, yes, I think harassment or violence occurred, and they provide the information. And someone like myself will come in and do the investigation and interview the complainant, who's called the principal party, the respondent, who's called the responding party, and come up to what they call a finding of fact. First of all, did the incident happen? Yes, no. Second point, does it meet the definition of harassment, violence? Third thing is, what are the root causes? Why did we get to where we are? And the final thing is, what recommendations can I make to prevent it from happening again in the future? So I'm often asked whether discipline is a possible outcome for one of these processes, and no, it's not. That Bill C-65, the Workplace Harassment and Violence Prevention Regulations under the Canada Labour Code, I always say it's something to make the world a better place. Did the incident occur? Did it meet the definition? And then how do you make things better so it never happens again? So in the Shakespearean, Merchant of Venice, there's no pound of flesh. So I've been asked, well, what other processes are in place where something like harassment and violence could actually conceivably turn into some sort of disciplinary measure or whatnot. And so there's never a guarantee that these things will work out this way, but there are a couple other processes that I thought I'd just talk about. So one of them is a code of conduct investigation. So a lot of departments will have their harassment and violence prevention regulations, and then they'll also have a code of conduct which probably will say harassment is a bad thing. There's probably a section in there, and I've seen this where an investigation is actually done under both like the harassment and violence program, but it's also done under a code of conduct. So code of conduct investigations take a look to see if something happened, if it meets the definition of whatever's in that code of conduct. Here we're talking about harassment, and then there are corrective measures if the person is found to have committed harassment. So there are corrective measures, which could be some sort of disciplinary measure. And then one thing that I find really, really cool is they call it a review for cause in the security world. So in the security world, federal government Canada, employees have security screenings. There's this thing called the reliability, which is the threat that you pose, to your organization. Protection of information, assets, or people. And then on top of that, there's these things called clearances, which is like a secret or top secret, and that's the threat somebody poses to the country, to the state. So in a harassment and violence scenario where somebody has committed, serious harassment or violence against another person in the workplace, you could see a departmental security officer or chief security officer conduct an administrative investigation that's called a review for cause. And what that DSO or CSO, Department of Security Officers, Chief Security Officer, is doing is they're looking to see if they can trust that person to continue to have a reliability status screening, the threat you pose to your own organization. So take myself, Ken McCarthy. Let's imagine that I have been accused of harassment in a workplace against another employee. So I could conceivably be investigated under the Bill C-65 Harassment Violence Prevention Regulations. If my department has a code of conduct, I could be investigated under that. And under departmental security, my DSO or CSO could take a look and say, can I continue to trust Ken McCarthy to protect information, assets, and people in this organization? And if the DSO believes that they cannot, after this process called a review for cause, they conceivably could revoke my security screening. And if I don't have a security screening, I no longer meet a condition of employment. And if I no longer meet a condition of employment, I'm no longer an employee. So these things are tricky. There's this thing called double jeopardy, where sometimes appeal tribunals will look and say, no, you're trying to hit the person over the head with two different tools, or you've chosen the wrong tool. But I just presenting my opinion, my view based on my experience working in corporate security and investigations for, I guess, about 15 years now. These things could play out. So anyways, just thought I would share that with you.